Right, so my experiences of the DGH is I've been there myself as an outpatient, and generally my experience has been quite good there. I have also been there as a relative visiting my father-in-law over the years, and sometimes I found there were some difficulties there with communication and discharge and some areas like that, but what was 3 or 4 years ago. I am concerned about the latest report, CQC report at the hospital, and the problems with the management system and the culture there. I'm concerned about the transfer of some of the services, which I think are core services, over to Hastings when the road is so bad and it's such a long distance over there. As an ex-midwife who trained at the hospital, I'm concerned about the journey for pregnant women, for relatives, and over there, and the possibility of an accident or even a death with having to transfer people over to Hastings. I'm concerned about Hastings having the capacity to deal with all of the maternity services that they now have to deal with. So I personally would like to see the core services like paediatrics, A&E, maternity, general surgery, and medicine back at the DGH. So I have in the past also been involved with the Save the DGH and been on some of the marches some time ago when they first started the changes to the hospital. So I do watch it closely, and I am concerned and interested to know how they are going to move forward in the future.
Yeah, well, my experiences of the DGH probably from a few years ago now, dealing with my elderly parents. Most recently, 2 years ago, when my father went into the DGH on several occasions. And although everybody we dealt with individually was very good and very helpful, I found as his chief carer it quite hard to get an overall picture of what was the best treatment and care for my dad. I seemed to get a specialist in maybe kidneys and a specialist in something else. Hard to get the overall picture, so as a carer I found that quite hard, and my dad did get released from hospital a couple of times a bit prematurely and was readmitted only a couple of days later because there seemed to be a bit of a pressure to get him out. And also when he was out, I felt there could have been more care in the community to prevent him going back in again, and he was readmitted several times. So to sum it up, everybody individually I dealt with was very good and very helpful. There didn't seem to be any overall management of his condition as an older person where he had multiple issues to deal with. Prior to that, going back sort of 5 years ago, dealing with my mother who had dementia, she had several admissions into the DGH and to the Conquest Hospital with TIAs, small strokes. And again, individuals were very good. They seemed very busy in A&E. It was hard, once again, to get a picture about how best to deal with things. So I think there's a similar picture really. Individuals were very good. Overall management of my mother as a patient, not so good really. Looking to the future, I'm sort of not an area I really know much about, but have read about, and I'm a bit concerned about the services that are being distilled locally. I'm concerned that the maternity unit is being diluted, and it worries me not only that we'd have to travel a long distance to get the care you might need, but I'm also concerned that for the carers and people helping, they also would have large distances to cover to support the people who might be in hospital.
I've been up twice recently. I had a gastroscopy which was in their new suite, which has just been opened. It was beautiful facilities, wonderful staff, and the procedure was done really, really well. I was a bit concerned when I signed the consent form if there'd been a problem, they would have had to transfer me to Hastings, because that's something they couldn't deal with any longer at Eastbourne. It didn't happen, and I was absolutely fine, but it's a bit of a worry that they'd build a brand new suite and not be able to deal with any complication, any serious complication that might arise from it. Whether it would take me in the helicopter, I don't know. That might have been fun. Other than that, I've been going to the hydrotherapy pool, to a self-help group following a knee replacement operation, which I didn't have done at the DGH. I had that done privately. And again, facilities have been brilliant, staff have been brilliant, hospital's well run. Don't really see any great problems or any change in it at all to what it's always been.
Yeah, I mean, it's recently, it was actually a few months back now, sort of July, the chief executive of the DGH was forced to resign from this position because you heard there's been a poor CQC report, which said negative about management really, and sort of focus on poor management, whereas the staff, sort of what you're saying, correlates what you're saying, have been very good.
Yes.
So, and also the head of the East Sussex Trust has had to resign as well recently in September because of issues with the Conquest Hospital as well. So, I mean, but you don't feel there's been any real changes?
Well, no. I mean, the worst thing that hasn't affected me is the fact that they've moved maternity, the consultant-based maternity, to Hastings, which, having two daughters of childbearing age, although they don't live in the area, if they did, would be of great concern. And great concern for the people that live in Eastbourne. Now there's 90,000 of us, and there were 60 when I moved here. How they can suddenly decide that we don't need a consultant-led maternity. And I think that was down to the chief executive and to that team doing that. Trying to run two hospitals under one trust at such vastly sort of vast distances from each other, with such poor communications between the two, I think is, for my mind, just ridiculous.
So you see it's a mistake that they're both,
Oh, I do.
They both share.
Yes, I do. I think we'd be a lot better off. We could go back to just Hastings run Hastings and we're run ours. And I know that you need sometimes where they're trying to get so that you've got centres of excellence. But whether you need that in things just like every day, what should be your basic services, maternity, orthopaedics, eyes, might be if you're doing heart transplants or you wouldn't. People who have heart diseases have always gone up to London. That wouldn't be, but for your basic everyday stuff like having babies, I think you should be in your own town, especially a town the size of Eastbourne.